The relationship between the U.S. government and our big corporations, and in fact other governments of major G8 countries and our corporations, is a very intriguing one, because I think during most of my lifetime the laws in the United States were written by elected officials. But today that isn't true. The laws in the United States and many other countries are written by corporate lobbyists who own the elected officials. Pay for them. Nobody gets elected without big corporate financing these days. And so the laws are passed through the elected officials, but the elected officials don't really write the laws. The corporations do. And so we've really moved from a time in history, let's say 200 or 300 years ago, when religious organizations pretty much call the shots, to the next step when governments call the shots. And some of these governments were totalitarian, some were dictatorships, some were republics, some were democracies. They call the shots. But today we've moved to the next phase, which is the big corporations are calling the shots. And we have to ask ourselves, what's the phase beyond that? But the fact of the matter is that today we're at this phase where the corporations are ruling the planet, and the governments are serving at their interests. And you know, at the very top, it's even impossible to make a distinction between corporations and government, because you know, one moment somebody's very high up in, let's say, Exxon, and the next moment she's Secretary of State for the United States. And you can go, it doesn't matter whether you've got Republicans or Democrats in office. You know, under Obama, we see that that our financial policies are basically written by Wall Street, primarily Goldman Sachs executives. So there's this revolving door. So at the very top, there's really no distinction between these. And the driving force is always the corporations, because they're the ones with the money and the ultimate power. They're all driven by this one goal of maximizing profits, regardless of the social and environmental costs. And the corollaries to that, no regulations on corporations, because that gets in the way of maximizing profits, and privatize everything, let the corporations run everything. Particularly when Reagan became president, he really adopted these, and Thatcher of England adopted them, and Odson of Iceland, and many other world leaders, and every U.S. president since, Democrat and Republican alike, has adopted these principles. And, you know, maximize profits, no regulations, and privatize everything. And as a result of that, we're run by the big corporations. It makes me angry when people who claim to be patriotic, who wave around the flag, say our government's bad. We've got to privatize. Our government officials, our civil servant, people who serve the civic, who serve the public, are no good. We're told this all the time. It makes me angry. We're told that they can't do it. Our government can't do it. My government, the government of the United States, which brought us through a revolution back in the 1700s and has been standing behind us ever since, got us to create a country that was united during the Civil War, took us through World War I and World War II. These are all government-run organizations. And now we're being told they can't do it. It makes me very, very angry. To say we've got to privatize, to say that General Electric or General Dynamics or General Motors, any of the other generals, interesting they're all called General, you know, then there's Raytheon and a few others, to say that they can do it better than government officials makes me very, very angry. This privatization is a scheme to give the corporations more power, to basically let them run the government, or what should be government. It's part of this whole policy of taking over.